that Caitlin Clark, the what I would say the most singer.
How Caitlin Clark brought down the WNBA and what the media isn't telling you. The WNBA and the Indiana Fever are in collapse. But the truth behind what happened with Caitlin Clark is far deeper than we imagine. Think about the WNBA. Now, think about Caitlin Clark. In recent months, she's become the focal point of the entire league. The only reason why millions of people who never watched women's basketball even cared. She was what the sports world hadn't seen since the rise of Tiger Woods in golf. A singular force capable of transforming a niche sport into a global phenomenon. It turns out that force is no longer there, and the truth is, the entire league knew this was going to happen. What unfolded behind the curtains is a mystery, but the result is undeniable. Without her, the WNBA is on the verge of collapse. What really happened to Caitlin Clark? And why doesn't the league want you to know the truth? Caitlin Clark's absence this season isn't just a problem. It's the end of the brief, meteoric success the WNBA experienced. Suddenly, a league that was capturing the attention of a national audience and mass media has returned to the shadows, from which it came. What's happening is that the WNBA and its executives, from Stephanie White and Amber Cox to Kathy Engelbert and Adam Silver, seem to have united in a dark farce. They participated in a charade, a deception that elevated Caitlin Clark as the most attractive figure in sports since Tiger Woods. The truth, however, is that Caitlin's drawing power is as great as that of legends like Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, or Muhammad Ali, even if she hasn't yet achieved the same level of championship success. What we're witnessing is the disappearance of her power and the downfall of a league that depended on a single star to survive. But why would the league allow this to happen? And why would the team's management act in such bad faith? The perception that the WNBA is on the verge of collapse isn't just a theory. It's a reality that heavyweights in the media have already confirmed. Journalists like Jason Whitlock and Colin Cowherd, who once led their radio and TV shows with Caitlin Clark, now openly admit they no longer tune into the league. Cowherd, who dedicated the lead of his show to Caitlin 6 times, revealed he simply stopped talking about the WNBA. Why? Because without her presence, the league became irrelevant. This is the same kind of power that makes the Lakers, the Cowboys, and the Yankees a source of endless debate on sports shows. They generate ratings. And the WNBA now no longer does. But if the problem is so evident, why didn't the league do anything to prevent this downfall? And what does the fan reaction reveal about the future? The Indiana Fever, the WNBA, and the NBA have a real reason to be scared, and the proof came from an unexpected place. A simple social media poll. A fan posted a direct question. Are you sticking around to watch the Fever play without Caitlin Clark? The result was a shock that should send shivers down the spine of every league executive. With over 4,500 votes, the answer was brutally clear. 47.5% of the fans who tuned in to watch the team said no. In other words, almost half of the entire audience that Clark brought to the league simply vanished. The public is showing that they don't care about women's basketball, they care about Caitlin Clark. But if the numbers are so frightening, why didn't the league and the Fever's management act with more transparency? The truth behind Clark's injury might be darker than it seems. There's something very strange happening with Caitlin Clark's alleged injury. With every new piece of news, the feeling that something is sinister and misleading only grows. The injury process seems to have been managed in a way that is reminiscent of a used car salesman, or something even worse. The Indiana Fever's management and coaching staff weren't transparent, and the coach, Stephanie White, seemed to be dodging any questions about Caitlin's situation. No one wanted to tell the truth, even when it was obvious to anyone with half a brain that the player wouldn't be returning for the season. This raises a disturbing question. Could the injury have been an excuse to hide something much bigger? And why would the league benefit from having its biggest star out of the game? What are they hiding? What the poll showed isn't just a number, it's a mass movement. What was once a captive audience has now become an exodus. Caitlin Clark's absence has transformed Indiana Fever games from must-see TV into something that can be ignored. People are no longer changing their schedules to watch. The league has lost its relevance and has become just another option on the channel. This is a fundamental change that the WNBA, with 26 years of history and no profits, cannot afford to have. Figures like Colin Cowherd, who used to make sure to tune into games in his car or on his phone, now openly admit they don't even remember the team's name. This raises a terrifying question. If the media itself doesn't care, how does the league expect to survive? And what does this reveal about the true popularity of the other players? All this time, the WNBA tried to sell an alternative narrative, positioning Angel Reese as Caitlin Clark's main rival to try to maintain interest. But the truth is brutal. This rivalry was, for the most part, manufactured. Although Angel Reese is a good player, she doesn't have the drawing power of a singular star. Think about Tiger Woods. He brought millions of viewers who never cared about golf to watch him, not the other players on the tour. The WNBA made a fatal mistake by believing they could replace a phenomenon with a rivalry. They thought they could use Angel Reese to hook the public, but what they discovered is that nobody cares about the rival when the real star is gone. It's a mistake that cost the league dearly, but the plot behind the cameras is even scarier. What if the league knew about all this from the beginning? According to journalist Jason Whitlock, the WNBA's decision to handle Caitlin Clark's situation the way it did will be remembered as one of the greatest mistakes in sports history. The league had a chance to elevate itself, to become a powerhouse, to capitalize on its star's immense popularity, but instead, they simply threw the opportunity away. What should have been a season of glory turned into a total disappointment for Caitlin Clark's new fan base. At every step, the WNBA seemed more interested in sabotaging its own success than in building it, which raises a disturbing question. What if the league didn't want Caitlin Clark to succeed in the first place? This story seems to have been intentionally buried on the same day the NFL season kicked off. This raises an even darker question. Was the WNBA trying to hide the truth on purpose? In the search for a new star, journalist Jason Whitlock reveals a harsh and controversial truth. The WNBA suffers from a character problem. He argues that, with few exceptions, the players the league tries to promote are unlikable or lacking charisma. This isn't just a criticism, it's the reason why the league has struggled to be profitable for 26 years. Whitlock mentions names like Angel Reese and Aja Wilson, describing them as unreliable, a term he uses to describe people who don't attract the sympathy of the mass public. This is a fundamental flaw that the league cannot solve, and the reason why Caitlin Clark's popularity was so vital. The public didn't tune in to the WNBA to see an entire league. They tuned in to see one player. And when that player was gone, they left too. But if the players lack charisma, what's left for the league? The answer might be in the next season, or maybe not. The reality for the WNBA, now that Caitlin Clark is gone, is bleak and uncertain. The league, which has always operated at a loss with low ratings, has lost its only chance to go mainstream. The lack of charisma and popularity among most of its players, combined with the suspicious injury of its biggest star, has created a situation from which the WNBA may not recover. The new fan base, attracted by Clark, is already showing that it has no reason to keep watching. What's left is a league that sabotaged itself and will now have to be content with returning to anonymity. The question is no longer whether the WNBA will survive. The question is how much credibility it lost along the way. And why doesn't the league care about its own reputation? One of the most suspicious things in this whole story is the timing of the announcement. The news that Caitlin Clark was out for the season was released practically at the same moment the NFL season began. This is no coincidence. The WNBA knew the news would be buried, and that the attention of millions of sports fans would turn to football. Why would they do that, unless the league wanted the information to go unnoticed? This makes the story look like a carefully planned scheme to hide a greater truth. The feeling is that the WNBA wanted to get rid of the problem once and for all, leaving behind the fans who didn't care about the league before and don't care now. What does this mean for the future? And what if the WNBA doesn't want these new fans? In addition to the disappointment with the season, Jason Whitlock raises an even greater concern: the possibility of a blackout or a woke stoppage next season. His theory is that the players, after the brief exposure they had, will overplay their hand and ask for a very high value in their new contracts, which could lead to a halt in activities. This reveals a mentality that, according to him, is one of the main reasons the league cannot be profitable. The feeling is that, instead of being grateful for the new exposure, the players will overplay their hands and end any chance of growth. If this prediction comes true, the WNBA will not only lose Caitlin Clark's fan base, but could also implode completely. But the question that remains is, why would the league's management allow things to get to this point? The WNBA's problem, according to Jason Whitlock, is the lack of charisma among most of its players. He uses the term unlikable and compares it to politicians who failed to win over the public's sympathy. The WNBA had a chance with Caitlin Clark because she was the exception, the only player the public wanted to see. The league made the fatal mistake of thinking people would tune in to watch the other players, when the truth is nobody cares. The public doesn't connect with the entire league, only with the star. The WNBA had a cash cow and let it go, and now the bill is coming due. The proof of this? The poll that shows almost half of the fans abandoned the league. What will happen now? And what is the final lesson the WNBA should have learned from all this? What we've witnessed isn't just an injury or a player's departure. It's the same old WNBA story, but this time with an even more brutal ending. The league had its chance, its cash cow, and lost it in an unbelievable way. The proof is in the numbers and the words of figures like Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock. The WNBA simply can't attract and retain the attention of the mass public. The management's lack of transparency, the suspicious handling of the injury, and the attempt to cover up the problem are the nails in the coffin for a league that refused to grow. Now, the audience it gained is abandoning the ship. The WNBA's future is uncertain, and if this season taught us anything, it's that it cannot survive without a singular star. The public has spoken, and the message is clear. Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA has no future. Leave your opinion in the comments. Do you think the WNBA can recover? Share this video with anyone who needs to hear the truth about what really happened to women's basketball.